Well, another Australia Day, another Invasion Day debate, which every year seems to suck in more of the virtual signallers and more of those who take offence at anything they can find to take offence at. It is becoming tiresome and in many ways quite moronic that on a day when we reflect on what Australia has become, we have this minority within a minority placing an ultra emphasis on the loss of Indigenous lives in a past period at the start of our modern Western-style civilisation. Of course, that's part of our history. It's dark, it's terrible, but that's not who we are. That's not who we are now. None of what has happened is acceptable today. And that's a great reason to celebrate who we are and what we have rejected from our past. Now, Indigenous protest over those crimes has aided that process. They should also be proud of that, proud of what they have helped protest against and create and denounce. But they're not alone. We've all condemned the cavalier treatment of Indigenous people centuries ago. We learned about it at school. We still learn about it. But what year will this guilt and shame at this time end? Will it be next year? Doubt it. In 10 years? Doubt it. Or never. The Indigenous Affairs Minister, Ken Wyatt, knows where the focus tomorrow should be.
The term is used by Indigenous Australians, but it should not be interchangeable. That diminishes the celebratory element of Australia Day and what we are as a nation. Look, I think if it's used respectfully to make the point of what has happened and some of the travesties that have occurred and the pain that's being created, but what we should be doing is reflecting back on what happened then and what we have achieved and how we've moved forward.
There are too many shocking criminal events taking place in remote Aboriginal communities right now to spend all of this high-profile time hammering English colonialists who are no longer alive. Look at someone like Jacinta Price. Jacinta dismisses the Invasion Day rubbish, but spends today highlighting the third world conditions of her people in remote communities. That's what needs attention.
It's always these demands of acts of symbolism that seem to prioritise our country's leaders, that certainly prioritise our priorities for the activists in this country, and they suck the oxygen out of the need to focus on these far more important issues that affect marginalised Indigenous Australians.
She is so right. And what disappoints those of us who want to enjoy our Australia Day and be proud of our great country and laugh and celebrate tomorrow is that it's spoilt and scarred by this prolonged guilt narrative and infected aggro. Or is this a state of mind they all feel comfortable with? That's my gut feeling. Someone has to blame for the opportunities I've frittered away, and why not a government, which in some vague way has to be connected to a settlement from 250 years ago? Is that really the argument? So, the other argument that they'll tell us about is move this day. So do we move Australia Day away from the day some, even the ABC, call Invasion Day? I'll get to the ABC later in the show. But do we shift this patriotic, flag-waving, barbecue-dominated celebration to the day we federated, January the 1st? And then on January the 26th, the invasion mob can have the day all to themselves to rally, chant and hate. Wouldn't that work? Still a great part of the summer for Australians to get out and about, celebrate outdoors, enjoy the landscape, which we love doing on January the 26th, and free of anything remotely connected to dark Indigenous history. But if you think that a new Australia Day on January the 1st would free itself of protest, of aggro over white settlement, I'm sorry, think again. The usual suspects will rev up the usual crowd and ensure that Australians didn't lose sight of Indigenous deaths. You can't wave an Australian flag without thinking overtly about Indigenous deaths. That's their argument. And they'd probably rename the day. I noticed the term Survival Day has started to creep in. They'd probably rename January the 1st Survival Day and use that as the new slogan for guilt and aggro. According to an Ipsos poll today, only 28% of Australians want to change the date of Australia Day. Now, those 28% might think it will solve the issues of invasion and occupation as we hear so loudly at this time of the year. I'm sorry, I very much doubt it. It's such a great pity that this section of the Indigenous community, a minority within a minority, can't focus on the numerous efforts made to say sorry, to apologise on behalf of previous generations, to support those who need help in a predominantly white society. They, like the rest of Australia, have made tremendous steps to become a sophisticated nation in such a small period of time.
I think of the 50s and where I am now, life has changed so much. Young people having opportunities, recognition of achievement, the strength of community. But look, I suppose in one sense, the history and perception of individuals is shaped by what they read and what they share. And that's why respectful debates will open up those discussions and will continue to allow us to tell the true history of our nation.
How about much more of the recognition of achievement, as Ken White pointed out there, and less about a small and narrow part of our early Western civilised history that should, for some reason, overshadow everything about Australia Day? That's not the way we want it. That's not the way Black and White should be celebrating it. It's been a mammoth turnaround, and we should celebrate that, not deride what we've achieved. The way forward, as I see it, is to begrudgingly accept our imperfect predicament when it comes to our National Day each and every year. We probably need just to ignore the ungrateful and permanently offended and get on with having a very happy Australia Day.